Okay, another short segment on the Thunderchild. Now I had some overspray right in here with the future. You can still kind of see it. What I did is I took some ammonia. Ammonia cuts down the future. I mean, it takes it right off. Okay, so you got some overspray, you can hit that with some ammonia, scrub a little bit, and it comes off. I had another bad spot of overspray back here on the nacelle, and it's pretty gone. I just hit it with some ammonia. I'm about to put a clear coat, an enamel-based clear coat over this, a dull coat. I'm going to tape off the nacelles and the bussard collectors on the red ends before I do it, but the rest of it's going to get a dull coat. Okay, stand is almost done. What I've been doing here is I have been printing. This is on photo paper right here. It is a plaque. I'm going to use this as a name plaque on the stand. Okay. Now, I'm not going to use the photo paper. This is on decal paper. The instructions on the decal paper require that you give it a couple of clear coats of paint. So I'm about to go clear coat this. I'm trying to decide if I want to apply that directly to the wood. I've done that before, and it usually comes out looking pretty good. Or if I want to take a piece of styrene and apply this to the piece of styrene and mount the piece of styrene on the wood. I haven't figured out which one I am going to do yet. I'm leaning more towards the styrene because of the way the stand is set up. Although I could just cut this out and glue it down on the block of wood and then put some polyurethane over it to seal it in. That is another option, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to do yet. I've never used decal paper before, so this is kind of an experiment here. I printed it twice because this one, if you look at the U, came out pretty bad. It rubbed against something as it came out of the printer, and I wasn't watching. I watched this one, so that didn't happen. So I learned something about working with decal paper. Well, that's it for this short segment. When I come back, the stand should be just about done and the Thunderchild done. While taping up the nacelle, I got a little carried away with the tape, put it over the top of the decals, and it pulled them right off. There's 4 or 5 coats of future on top of those decals, and the tape still pulled them right off. I can fix the red one for sure. I'm pretty sure I can fix that one, but I'm gonna have to fix that one to match it. It's just gonna be some taping and painting. I'm gonna have to tape and paint those. I'm gonna have to mix up some blue, and hopefully I can get it to match the rest of the blue on here. If I can't, I'm liable just to pull that decal off completely and pull that one off completely. We'll see what I can do about it. Okay, I've been working on the nameplate for the stand. Basically, I've got my decal cut out. It's been adhered to this sheet of styrene. You can tell this is a pretty thick piece of styrene. What I did is I clamped this part right here, the big part, between 2 boards. I took my heat gun and heated right along this line. I drew a line across where I wanted this bend to be. Took my heat gun, heated right along this line, and then I took a second board and bent it over to the shape I wanted and held it for about 20 seconds. That was enough for it to set in place. Then I took and put it in the freezer for a couple of minutes, and that set it completely in place. Took the heat out of the styrene. So now I have a stand that's pretty stable because this is such thick styrene. Now, if I had to guess, I'd say that's 1 mil styrene. And the decal sits on it pretty well. Now there's some rough edges on this decal. I'm going to have to clean that up. What I think I'm going to do is put some dull coat on this, and then after a couple of coats of paint, I'm going to take some 1200 grit sandpaper and sand along the seams around the edge of the decal and see what happens. I got nothing to lose for that. I could always strip the paint off and the decal with some sandpaper. So I'm going to experiment. We're going to see if I can hide the edges of the decal. All right. I'll be back when that's done. Okay, I'm back with this thing. I don't know if you can tell. The edges of the decals are a lot smoother. I did what I said I was going to do. I took some 1200 grit sandpaper and sanded the edge of the decals. It smoothed them out and made them not quite as obtrusive. I think if I would repeat that 3 or 4 more times, they would blend in a lot better. I'm not going to put forth the effort on this one because, again, this is not for a contest. This is just for me. A casual glance, and when you back up, the thing looks fine. So, to recap it, put the decal on, put a clear coat on. This is enamel based. Sanded with 1200 grit sandpaper around the edge of the decal. Then put another clear coat on. One thing that bothers me though is there's a little spot right here on the styrene. I tried sanding that spot out. You can see it's a little discoloration. Apparently that's in the styrene. That's not coming out. This was a piece of scrap styrene. I got it from a pack of evergreen odds and ends, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's a discoloration in there. It's not a fingerprint. It's not something I can get out of it. It was there before I even put the paint on it. And I tried to get rid of it before I put the paint on, so it's pretty much stuck there. Yet another reason why I'm not trying very hard. But this is working out really well. I drilled some holes in it, about to put it on the stand, on the wooden base. I'll be back once that's done to talk about putting in the acrylic rods. Okay, I'm back. I've got a lot of the decals removed. You can see right here that they're pretty gone. I had to take some sandpaper to a few of them because in a few spots they were stubborn. There's still some remnants right in here. And if you look right along that edge, you can see I sanded the paint off accidentally. I sanded a little too hard. So I'm gonna have to touch that paint up. And looking, you can see they are gone. Basically, I just took some masking tape, stuck it down, pulled it off. In almost all cases, that came right off there. Now, the replacement decals. And here's one of the things I'm talking about here. These are the replacement decals right here. Okay? They came in the mail yesterday. They are much nicer than the decals that came with the set. Go figure. Coloration slightly different too. Okay? So I went ahead and pulled off some decals that were fine because I knew the colors wouldn't match up if I didn't do that. In fact, I'm thinking I might have to pull off these long decals too, because when you look at it, they ain't gonna match. So I'm gonna have to pull those off as well. But I strongly suggest that if you are going to buy this model, you spend the extra money and get this decal sheet. It has way more decals on it. The decals are better color, everything. Okay, I would just suggest getting the decals. I'll be back once I get her patched up and we will finish up the stand and be done with this one. Hello everyone, I now have the stand done. Here we have the name placard, or plaque as you would call it. Okay, you can see a few spots where the decal was a little rough. This was my first homemade decal, so I'm not surprised by that a bit. Now, it was much worse. What I did is I took some 1200 grit sandpaper and sanded the edges of the decal, and it smoothed it out quite a bit. I think if I were to keep at that, it would end up taking care of it completely. This is not for a competition or a contest. This is just to sit on my desk and look pretty. So I ain't gonna worry about it that much. Now over here we have the acrylic rods. I did not glue them in. I wrapped some masking tape around the ends of them and just forced them down in their holes. They're still a little wobbly, but nowhere near like they were. I can pick the stand up by them, so they're in there pretty good. Okay, up here. I thought about putting some felt pads on the top of this. I actually glued a felt pad onto a couple of spots and learned that acrylic doesn't like glue. Not this acrylic anyhow. The glue just didn't hold up. The next day I breathed on it and the felt fell off. I was using Elmer's glue. Did some research, there isn't really much glue that will stick to acrylic. So I decided to take it a different route. Got out my drill, drilled some holes, and then did the acrylic. got myself a nice pencil eraser, stuck it in the hole, cut it off flush. The pencil eraser grips the model very well. The model doesn't want to move around on here. This one over here, I don't know if you guys can really see that. I had to slope that so to match the contour of the model itself. So it wasn't just touching in one little spot, it's actually gripping it all along that bit of eraser. Okay, well, only one more thing to do. I got to finish the decals and clear coat, and it is done. I'm going to put the decals on tonight, and I'll have a video when it's done. Okay, here's the Thunderchild, and what we have here is JT Graphics decal set for the Akira class Starship. This decal set is much better than the one that comes with the model. Much better. I wish I had bought this beforehand. There are many more decals here. This whole grouping, let me set this down real quick. This whole grouping right here wasn't even included with the original decal set. Neither were some of these. These were not, and a few others were not. And these are printed much better, they're much cleaner. So I basically stripped all the decals off the engine nacelles. I'm going to replace them with these. I don't know if I'm going to apply the extra decals or not, simply because I want to get this thing done, and it wouldn't hurt me to keep some of these laying around for other uses on other models. So I won't complain about that. In addition, if I ever decide to build another one of these, I have a lot of extra decals for different starships. So I'm going to get started on this. I'll be back when it's done.